minute late. I'm very sorry. It also looks like I'm naked. I don't love that. I feel like Mike is really not getting the attention that he deserves. So I want to scoot him over a little bit. Also, my computer sounds like it's about to take off to Neverland. And someone remind me, chill, 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 chill. Let's close some background apps. Good. Hi besties. How are we doing? My screen is a little not perfect. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna move Mike. Once I move him, remind me to set up my iPad and go on TikTok Live. Actually, it doesn't even have battery. Yes, it's at 89%. I love when I'm prepared. Okay, I'm gonna move Mike and try not to trip over an Ethernet cord. But yeah, I'm just gonna move him. No one be weird. I don't like showing my body on the internet. No one be weird. He's really just not visible where we have him. Yeah, I think this is gonna need to be his home over here. Is he in the camera? Okay. Oh, that's so much better. Okay, that is exactly what we needed to give. Oh, thank you. Set up the iPad. God, you guys are so good. I also want to turn my light down a little bit. Clearly, I didn't really have it together today. Sorry that you were just like looking at my armpit. You know, I can only answer to God for what happens on here. Sorry, that made me like oddly out of breath.
No fucking.
I feel like such an iPad baby. Okay. I'm moving you down there. That's the view that you get. But you get what you get and you don't get upset, iPad people. Okay, so today we are going like old school history today. Like how I used to do aggressively history things and less like pop culture things, which I love both. But anyway, my girl dinner is Diet Coke and fries. I'm really struggling right now. I'm gonna have a poke bowl after this, and I'm actually extremely excited about it. It's very, very exciting. But anyway, oh fuck, I meant to edit a slide before we started, but it's fine. So anyway, I've said anyway 1,000 times. Great. We are talking about Phyllis Schlafly today. Phyllis Schlafly is the woman we are talking about. She is an evil girl boss. Like, we hate her, we do not stand her at all, but real can recognize real, and Girly Pop was a genius. She hated the Equal Rights Amendment and decided that she would think it's terrible for women to have rights, so she was gonna not do that. She was like, that's not the plan. I wanna move my little fun light. She was like, that's not the plan. We're gonna cancel the Equal Rights Amendment. The Equal Rights Amendment being canceled is my plan. And it literally worked. She was literally successful. Literally, she was successful. So this is all 100% very real. Also, someone just donated via Venmo. I wanted to say thank you to everyone who has donated via Venmo. I have raised $590 of my 1857 goal. That is to buy the Mac desktop so that I can stream desktop and have a lot better quality. Plus, then I'll be able to have multiple tabs open, so I'll be able to like kind of include more sources and do more stuff as opposed to just having Nearpod open. Because right now my computer cannot handle that many tabs. So we still have like roughly 1,200 left. So that means if like 100-ish people donated $12 each, we'd be there. And there's 150 people here right now. So I'm not doing the math. Like, I'm just gonna let you do that math, that like if you're there, you could be one of those people. You know what I mean? Did you ever watch the Miss America miniseries? Yes, that's part of why I wanted to do this again, because the first time I did this stream topic, I had not seen the Miss America series, and then I did the stream, and everyone was like, you have to watch Miss America, so then I watched it, and it taught me a ton more stuff, so I was like, we need to do this topic again, because if you have been watching me for a while, A, thank you, and B, this was a topic we did like over a year ago, but we're back now. Also, where did this little guy go? Yeah, that's perfect, he can stay right there. We're back now, so we're going to do it again, but there's lots of new information. So if you were here for the last one, don't worry. And another person just donated via Venmo. Thank you. Oh my gosh, we got Alexandra with 10 and Emily with 20. Thank you so, so much. Unfortunately, this graphic does not update because my computer hates me. And that is another reason that you should donate, is that I can have a better computer, that I can do things like that. Tiz Wilby, thank you for subscribing, and thank you to everyone who subscribes. That's another way you can support me. We love a subscriber moment. We're over $600 now. That's like a big glass ceiling for us. But instead of me begging you for money, let's go ahead and talk about Phyllis Schlafly, because like, I didn't know it was possible to be so inspired and hate someone so much at the same time. Also, for those of you on TikTok, I cannot see your comments. You're like in an iPad in a box. If you want to interact in the chat and you want to see photos and videos, you have to come to Twitch. I'm a Walmart parking lot on Twitch and on YouTube and on TikTok, and probably on my birth certificate soon. So let's go ahead and talk about Phyllis. So what are we doing today? We're learning about the movement for the Equal Rights Amendment and the Stop Equal Rights Amendment movement. We're going to be talking a lot more about Phyllis Schlafly than we are going to be talking about the actual like women fighting for her rights. Not that they're not important, but it's just not what we're talking about today. I'm going to give like a little bit of an intro to it just so you can kind of see the vibes of the time. Oh my gosh, thank you. 7 more people donated. We have Gabriella, 50. Holy shit. Y'all have money. Y'all have money. Okay. You've been fucking holding out. Y'all have money. Lisa with 10. Oh my god, my screen can't keep up. Natalie with 15. Lisa with 10. Josie with 10. Gabriella with 50. Rue with 15. Nicole 5. Cassidy 5. Natalie 15. Cameron 25. And then Emily 20, Alexander 10. Thank you so, so much. I know, literally, like, when I say donate, I literally meant like $1. Like, $1 to $10. That's what I would donate. But thank you. 50, that's crazy. We're on a hype train too. It's a great night. What a time to be alive. My new streaming platform doesn't show me my views, but, oh, there, it's updated. It takes a long time to update, so it's usually wrong. So I just kind of have to go off of vibes. I'm poor, but I love you and metaphorically support you. That is so totally fine. Another thing you can do if you're like, oh my god, I really want to support Miss Redacted, but I have $0 to my name. I have been there. I'm low-key there right now. But I have been there. What is so, so helpful is when I post TikToks promoting my stream, like share it to your Instagram story, repost it, whatever. You never know who's going to see it that might enjoy this. That is an amazing way to help. That costs $0. And if you are like, shut the fuck up, bitch, I just want to come here and learn, I don't want to do anything for you, I'm glad you're here. Like, that's an honor. The fact that you want to watch me, like, you're like not at work, this is your free time. Like, we all have limited amounts of time to do the shit that we want to do, and you're like, oh, let me watch this bitch talk about shit on the internet. Like, that is very much an honor, and thank you, thank you, thank you. Megan 12, we love. We're at 782 right now. So my graphic may not update, but I'm updating you. We're at 782. We love. I've recruited so many people in your stream. Okay, so the Equal Rights Amendment. What is the thing that Phyllis Schlafly hated? Make sure you can't see anything on there. Yeah. What is the thing that Phyllis Schlafly hated? This is the law. It says, equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on the account of sex. That's it. That's it. It's the amendment. Woo! Really controversial. I know. So, so crazy and controversial. So, what is the ERA? In 1972, the Equal Rights Amendment, designed to guarantee protection against sexual discrimination for women under the law, passed both houses of Congress and was sent to individual states for ratification. Groups on both sides of the issue mobilized to lobby the states for and against passage. So, the people that were into the Equal Rights Amendment were like, fuck yeah, let's get this passed, let's lobby for it. And the people that weren't were lobbying against it. And also, this is the time period that like women's rights became like a Democrat-Republican issue. Like before that, conservative women were in favor of women's rights. This is like when this rift started, and it started with our girl Phyllis. A Get-Go parking lot. You're making pizza rolls? Happy 2 months subscribe. Oh my god. Thank you. And another person Venmo'd as well. I saw it. Tyler, 25. My wife and I love your streams, and it's our 10-year anniversary today. Oh my god! You've been married for 10 years? How does that feel? Like, you've changed so much together. You should be fucking proud of yourself. 10 years is a long time. And, like, in a way, I'm a part of your marriage. Like, in a way, I am the child of your marriage. If you think about it. Immaculate energy today. No, the energy is immaculate today. I'm Gabriella. I've been watching you forever. I did a report on Phyllis Schlafly when I was in high school. It was an early radicalizer for me. We love. Okay, let me actually teach you all and stop getting distracted by people. But I love when people give me money. This is amazing. This is what I want to do for a living. I just want to receive. I guess that's what anyone wants to do for a living. Samuel with the $5. We love a $5. $5. You could have bought a snack at a gas station and you chose to give it to me, and I take that very seriously because I bought a snack at a gas station today and that was my priority. No, don't be sorry to distract me. It's amazing. But anyway, so spoiler alert, the ERA failed to meet the requisite number of states for ratification by Congress's deadline, so it was not adopted as a constitutional amendment. So it never happened. Let's talk about why it didn't happen. And I kind of wanted to give context around like how it could have happened, like how this works, because I'm gonna be fucking honest with you. Like, I know that I've taught US history and like I should probably not be admitting this, but like civics is confusing. Like, I don't fully understand the way our government works, and I think that that's really normal. But the important part is that you can Google it and understand what you read. So you just need to know what the different parts of the government are, and then with stuff that's specific, like amending the Constitution, you can just look it up and learn it in context of what you're talking about. Civics is super hard, and it's very memorization based, and I'm really not a memorization person. So I just wanted to normalize struggling to memorize things. But anyway, this is how they can do a constitutional amendment. So amendments may be proposed by the Congress favorable by favorable vote of 2/3 of both houses of Congress, or the legislators of 3/4 of the states, or special state conventions in 3/4 of all the states. So basically, they have to get like fucking most of anybody. Or at national convention, called by Congress when requested 2/3 of the state legislators, and then it goes on to either the legislators of 3/4 of all of the states or special conventions in 3/4 of all the states. Regardless, you need a specific ass number of states. Like Congress does it, and then it goes to the states. That's how it works. So what happened here is Congress did it, and they were like, slay Congress. And then it went to the states, and everyone was like, who would vote against that? And then Phyllis Schlafly was like, I would. And then everyone else was like, I guess we should listen to you. So where did the Equal Rights Amendment come from? Was this a new idea? It was first drafted in 1923 by leaders of the women's suffrage movement. Suffrage means voting. My students would always think it meant like suffering, and it would drive me crazy. And I would literally tell them like every day that suffrage meant voting, and they would still always get it wrong. And I would literally, I'm not exaggerating, I would say it every day. Every day. I'd be like, what does suffrage mean? And they'd be like, voting. And then I'd give them a test, and they'd be like, suffering. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But the Equal Rights Amendment was first drafted in 1923. Alice Paul and Crystal Eastman were the ones that drafted it. For women's rights advocates, the ERA was the next logical step following the successful campaign to win access to voting. And keep in mind, this was white women. So when women got the right to vote, it wasn't all women, it was just white women. So when they wrote the ERA, like, we were not in a time of equality. I just want to like give that context. Like, it is not a time of equality. Wait, there's a quiz. There is an optional trivia game at the end for fun. No quiz. They were gaslighting. You know, I really felt like they were with the suffrage thing. Suffrage means voting. This will be on the quiz. No, literally every day. No, it's not on our trivia game. But anyway, where was I? So, they basically were like, slay, white women have the right to vote, let's keep it pushing, let's do the Equal Rights Amendment. And they believed that enshrining the principle of gender equality in our founding charter would help overcome many of the obstacles that kept women as second-class citizens. So again, it was 1923, think like before the Great Depression, right after World War I, women just got the right to vote. Like, it was a very different time than what we're in the time period that we're going to be talking about, which is like the 70s. The very, very different times. I feel like it's easy to think that they're close together, but they're 50 years apart. It's a very long time. So while the text of the amendment has changed over the years, the gist has remained the same. The version approved by Congress in 1972, sent to the states, reads as, equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States, or by any state on account of sex. The Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. So the main thing it's doing is it is giving the federal government the ability to enforce laws against like, you get what I'm trying to say. Like, if someone's being discriminated against by their sex, the federal government can be like, you can't fucking do that. That's what this law is saying. I think that's the best way to explain it. Is there still time to add what is suffrage to the quiz? I wish you could edit Nearpod after you start it, but you can't. That is their Achilles heel if the Nearpod team is listening to this. Men did nothing useful per usual. We're not going to talk about men very much today. This is decentering men, but they are slightly involved. So beginning in 1923, lawmakers introduced the ERA in every single session of Congress, but it made little progress until the 1970s. It didn't help that for most of the 20th century, Congress was comprised almost entirely of men. In a nearly 5-decade span between 1922 and 1970, only 10 women served in the Senate, with no more than 2 serving at the same time, and the picture was only slightly better in the House. So even though it was written in 1923, it really did nothing for a while, because they would introduce it and men would be like, okay, and why would a man be there? Why would a man be there? No, it's actually pissing me off. So yes, this is all the men in Congress with the ERA sitting on their desk. It was brought up every single session for 50 years. And they just, no. Okay. That's fine, I guess. You should be able to add activities, but you'd have to do it question by question, not as a quiz. Yes, that is true. You can add in activities on here, like a poll or true false. I've done the poll one before, but I think you should be able to edit anything. So, cut to 1960s, women's liberation movement. In the 1960s, over a century after the fight of the end of slavery fostered the first wave of women's rights movement, they had a second wave. So this is second wave feminism. And just to give some context around feminism in the U.S., at least like kind of what we think of traditionally and historically as feminist, of like the suffrage movement and stuff like that, it has historically been very white and not very inclusive. So when it says after the a century after the fight to end slavery fostered the first wave of the women's rights movement, the first wave of the women's rights movement stemmed from a place of racism, because women started organizing because they started seeing black men being treated better than they were being treated as white women. So it wasn't like, we want equality. It was like, how dare you treat us worse than you're treating them? I thought I was like higher in the social order. That's where the first wave feminism came from. And even though that's like a lot of people find that to be like an uncomfortable topic, or some people are like, oh, well, it was a nature of the time, whatever. I think every movement goes back to its beginnings, and I think it's important to talk about that is how American feminism of what we traditionally think of, because we know feminist work can display in lots of ways that are not what we think of as traditionally political, like helping another woman is an act of feminism. So I'm just saying, in the traditional political mindset of what feminism is, historically in the US, that's very tied to white supremacy, and I think that that's going to be, obviously it's going to have an impact on us today. So I think it's an important thing to talk about. A lot of people like to say that the waves of feminism are isolated, but they're not. They always go back in time and learn from each other, so it's like going to be entrenched in anything. And I just think that that's a really important piece of context here, is that I don't want to make it out to be like 100% black and white, like good and evil, of like the feminists are perfect and Phyllis Schlafly is evil. It's like Phyllis Schlafly is evil and the feminist movement is complicated historically and always involves racism, because our entire history involves racism, is the point I'm trying to get across. But anyway, it was largely based in the United States in the 1960s and 70s, and the Equal Rights Amendment became like a central symbol of that struggle. So the first wave feminism, like we said, was focused on women's suffrage for white women. Second wave feminism, where we are now in the 60s, 70s, was more about politics, work, family, sexuality. So we kind of think of that like, oh, women burning their bras, women getting to have jobs outside of the home and things like that. And again, the whole, oh, women get to participate in the workforce was a big thing. And that is like that whole concept is like a product of how white this movement was in a lot of ways, because women of color have always been working, because the US is a capitalist country. It was white women that were starting to get access to white collar positions, and that's what they meant by women entering the workforce. And it wasn't like, it just wasn't intersectional of the needs of all women. You know what I mean? It's a very complicated, like feminism in the US is a very complicated and convoluted topic. See the washerwoman strike episode. Yes, exactly. So women's liberation movement. The first public indication that change was imminent came from women's reaction to a Betty Friedan publication in 1963 called The Feminine Mystique. Friedan spoke of the problem that lay buried unspoken in the mind of the suburban housewife. So just what I was saying, white, usually wealthy. Utter boredom and lack of fulfillment. Women who had been told they had it all, nice houses, lovely children, responsible husbands, were deadened by domesticity, she said. They were also too socially conditioned to recognize their own desperation. The Feminine Mystique was an immediate bestseller. Friedan had struck a chord. Initially, women energized by Friedan's book joined with government leaders and union representatives who had been lobbying the federal government for equal pay and for protection against employment discrimination. By June 1966, they had concluded that the polite requests were insufficient. They needed their own national pressure group, a women's equivalent of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. So this is when they founded NOW, the National Organization for Women. And the organization was not an instant success. They had around 1,000 members at the end of their second year, and they had a lot of ideological divisions. So just as I was saying, feminism has always been complicated and has always been, like, there's the best word for it. It's just complicated. When the group tried to write a Bill of Rights for women, it found consensus on 6 measures essential to ensuring women's equality: enforcement of laws banning employment discrimination, maternity leave rights, child care centers that could enable mothers to work, tax deductions for child care expenses, equal and unsegregated education, and equal job training programs for poor women. So this is kind of like the goals of NOW in the 1960s at this point. So just to give you context around like the feminist movement that's kind of building. And then here's some pictures of it. I had another thing I wanted to say. Oh, so what I wanted to say, where it's talking about the suburban housewife. So just what I was saying, like, the movement's going to be inherently biased because it's from the perspective of an usually middle to rich white woman is like who is experiencing the call to action here, really, and who is reading this book and it's resonating with them, and that's who's participating in this movement. So I think on one hand you have the fact that it's like that's inherently going to be biased and not inclusive if like the woman leading the movement and like, you know what I mean, like if it's just from that perspective and that's the main driving force, that's not an experience that's inclusive of all women, and that's not a very intersectional viewpoint of like the women's struggle. So on one hand, I think that's not good. But then on the other hand, when you think about it, a lot of like these suburban housewives were perfectly poised to be involved with this, and they were able to move the needle forward in a lot of really specific ways because one, they had time. They didn't have to work for a living. Like having to spend most of your day at work is really like, not to be dramatic, but it's like a form of oppression. Like it limits your ability to go do other things, like fight for your rights. So these women, A, had time, and B, a lot of them had proximity to power. So they have husbands, neighbors, friends that are men in positions of power that they have influence over, and like not influence over like they're controlling them, but they have proximity to them. They have some influence over that situation. And then the other aspect of it is that a lot of these women were very well educated because they came from good families. So a lot of these women have gone to law school and like know these systems and are able to kind of strategize here. So I think that's what I say when it's like, it's just so fucking complicated and so nuanced. That's why I like streaming, because we can really get into nuance, and I love nuance of like, yeah, it's not inclusive. And I completely see why it's not inclusive, because movements, social change and movements don't happen in a vacuum. Like even if inclusion is your goal, you're still in your movement going to be susceptible to the conditions of the world that you're in. So when you're in a racist, misogynistic, capitalist world, that's going to be reflected within your movement. And I don't think that it makes it a useless movement. And I also think that there's always more that you can be doing to combat that and make it better, because that's the whole point. So it's just a very complicated thing. And I love, like I said, I love nuance. Did I finish reading this whole thing? Yes. So this was kind of their goal of NOW, was a lot focused on employment and childcare and like economic things, which I think, like I said, we live under capitalism. Economic equality is the first step to any form of equality under capitalism. So here's some pictures from the feminist movement. Oh, people on TikTok are talking about the TikTok to Twitch pipeline. Yes, I have watched the what's it called? The Hulu show about this. So here's some pictures of the feminist movement. Women Unite for Women's Liberation, Equal Pay Now. Here's some more pictures. They look great. Loving the fits of these matching people in the middle. Women Equality Demand, Women's Liberation, Women Demand Equality. Whatever, same difference. Women's Liberation, you can see here. ERA, yes. This is Gloria Steinem. ERA, yes. Some leaders, Betty Friedan. This is, I think that's Gloria Steinem again, and then this is Angela Davis. Shirley Chisholm, and then I cannot remember her name. It starts with a U. Fuck, why can I not remember her name? I meant to look it up too. I'm gonna reverse Google image search it. Hold on. It literally, like, I have it like on the tip of my brain. You know what I mean? Yeah, continue. I know you can have access to my camera. Audre Lorde. Audre Lorde. So close. U was the second letter. See, I had it on the tip of my brain. That is Audre Lorde, also a feminist leader from this time. So again, we're not going to go into detail a ton about the feminist movement anymore, but I wanted to give you context of some of the important people and who they were and what they looked like, just so you get the vibe of the time period, but that should hopefully be another stream topic later. So two measures stirred controversy about now. Two measures stirred enormous controversy within now. So one demanded the immediate passage of the ERA to the U.S. Constitution, and the other demanded greater access to contraceptive and abortion. When now threw its support behind the passage of the ERA, the United Auto Workers, which had been providing now office space, withdrew its support, and the ERA would effectively prohibit, because the ERA would effectively prohibit protective labor legislation for women. So the fact that now put so much energy towards the ERA was even controversial within now, because some groups like United Auto Workers were like, we really fucking like when women have specific rules to protect them here. So we do not like this because the ERA would prohibit that. See, again, it's complicated. It is complicated. Anytime you have legislation, it is complicated as fuck, and the effects are going to be complicated as fuck. That's why I will never be a politician. Because, like, you see, like, on something that we're all like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Then you see this and you're like, oh, I guess I see your point. If I was a female auto worker, I might feel that way too. White women will choose white supremacy over gender because they know they have privilege in race. Yes. How about protect everyone extra? Fair point. G-Bubs, thank you for subscribing. But anyway, it had controversy within the movement, and some now members called for a repeal of all abortion laws, while other members left the organization convinced that the latest action would undermine the struggles against economic and legal discrimination. So they have gone through a lot of changes and internal struggles, and it's like just not the most organized, united front group of people that you could possibly imagine. And I think that this is really a curse of progressivism, because I think progressives spend a lot of time fighting with each other about how to be perfect. And I think that fascists just all listen to who is in charge. And that is why they are able to get a lot more done. Because as evil as it sounds, dictatorships, even a dictatorship, like emotionally within a group of people, like not a government dictatorship, but like having one captain, things get done very fucking quickly because you're not allowed to disagree, and part of their norms is not listening to everyone and thinking about others' perspectives and things like that. So it's just like inherently they're going to be a lot more efficient. And I hate that I like can pick that apart that way, because that's annoying. So anyway, now became solely focused on the ERA, owing efforts of Owing to the efforts of women such as Bella Abzug, Betty Friedan, Gloria Steinem, the ERA passed Congress in 1972. So they did a lot of lobbying, like we said, and it did pass through Congress. So it passed the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives, like I said, March 22nd, 1972, and the proposed 27th Amendment to the Constitution was sent to the states for ratification. So that's why I was showing you earlier. First, Congress is like, we love it, having like a 2/3 majority, and then the states have to be like, we love it, having like a 3/4 majority is the rule. So it was sent to the states for ratification, but as it had done for every amendment since the 18th, it gave a 7-year deadline for the ratification process. So they basically were like, it's going to the states, you have a deadline, but it's not weird that they had a deadline. Other things had deadlines as well. So it's not like it was some kind of conspiracy against them, like the deadline thing was normal. And 7 years is a pretty long time. So the time limit was placed not in the words of the ERA itself, but in the proposing clause. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't really know what that fucking means, but okay. Like the 19th Amendment before it, the ERA barreled out of Congress, getting 22 of the necessary 38 ratifications within the first year. So people were like, this shit's gonna fucking pass, because they had 7 years, and in the first year, 22 states were like, love it, love everything about it, we're for it, we're here for it, and we support you, girl. So they were like, damn, we got 6 years and we're more than half done. We're fucking good. We are good. Good to go. So this is when the Stop ERA movement comes around, because they realize, oh shit, this is gonna get passed, let's do something about this. So that Stop ERA name came from Phyllis Schlafly. This is her campaign against the Equal Rights Amendment. She founded this after Congress had already passed the amendment, and her campaign played a very significant role in the fight to prevent it from being ratified in the 1970s. The name of Stop ERA is based on the acronym Stop Taking Our Privileges. Are you allowed to use the acronym within the acronym? Like, are you allowed to use the word within it as one of the words? You know what I mean? Is that allowed? I don't think it is. Also, good question. Since they have 7 years, can a state change their vote in that time? Like if they get a new legislator? I think so. But I'm not 100% sure. I bet it varies by state, if we're being honest. Giving ATM machine. Yeah. You're right, because the M is machine. It feels like cheating a little bit. Wait, what feels like cheating? Okay, anyway, continuing. Oh, the acronym thing feels like cheating. It is very lazy. So the campaign argued that women were already protected under the laws of the time, and making the ERA gender neutral would somehow deprive women of their special protections and privileges. So GOP leaders, after getting Phyllis Schlafly to organize all these Stop ERA groups, that is not a fact. It's just kind of a theory that I have. So who is Phyllis Schlafly? She was born in St. Louis and raised during the Great Depression, when her mother had to support the family because her father couldn't find work. So I guess Phyllis's villain origin story is the fact that her mother had to work. Which, like, that's not... Like, it was the Great Depression, dude. Like, a lot of other people went through the Great Depression and didn't do this. So, you know... But anyway, a bright and hardworking student, she graduated from Washington University in 1944, working at a World War II ammunition factory to help defray college costs. She also received a master's in government from Radcliffe College, which was the sister school of Harvard University. She later received a law degree from Washington University in 1978. This was after she had children. We will be talking about this. So after the war, back then her last name was Stewart, she worked for a year at the American Enterprise Institute, a conservative pro-business organization in Washington, D.C., and then she left to become involved in a political campaign in St. Louis, and then eventually ran for Congress herself and then lost. As she was a Republican candidate in a heavily Democratic district, so she kind of knew she was going to lose, I would guess. So, personal life things. In 1949, she married Fred Schlafly, so that's like before her political career stuff. I should have changed the order of this. He was an attorney for the Olin Corporation, and he was active in Republican Party politics and was a delegate to every GOP convention from 1952 until 2016. She had 6 children and attended Washington University Law at Night. Like I said, she did that after she had kids. She was a strong Roman Catholic anti-communist, and she founded the Cardinal Mindszenty Foundation, which was named after an imprisoned Hungarian prelate to educate Americans about the communist threat to religion. So, like I said, she is truly a girl boss for evil. Like, I wish I'd put more detail about her backstory, because it really just is absolutely fucking bananas. So yeah, she had 6 kids. She was, I'm assuming, anti-birth control, because she was very Roman Catholic and that was kind of their vibe. And then she went to law school after she had kids. Also, they had money. So even though she's like, yes, women and children, she always had help. Always. She always had staff helping take care of her children. She was like not doing all of the work. I do not believe. Absolutely not. No, ma'am. This whole background really is something. This is before the Stop ERA stuff. Like, this is like her early career. We're not even getting to her crazy career yet. Like, we're not even to the part that you're like, what the fuck? Like, just her early career is like a lot. Like, it's truly just a lot to unpack. So you're already 35 minutes in. And there's just so much. White women when they have to work. And honestly, I will say, like, I don't know if that's something that's just, like, innate in us that we, like, can't not do. But, like, it really just is horrifying to be at work. Like, I was at work today and, like, no. It's just really not a good time. Like, I don't know. Like, anytime I'm at work and I see other people at work, I'm like, why are you just acting like this is fine? Like, it's fine that we're happening. Like, this, like, people will just look at you like it's normal that this is happening to us, and it's really not. Like, it's really, really just not. Like, people will look at you and be like, yeah, and like, we have to be here all day? Like, maybe like an hour or two I would get. The whole day is just crazy. Like that is literally crazy. Like, a whole day. You want me to get here in the morning and then be here till, like, objectively evening. Like, 5 p.m. is nighttime. That's crazy. Like, this is why I'll never be happy in a job, because I just sit there and I'm like, this is crazy that we're doing this. Like, it's actually really crazy. But anyway, here's some family pics of Phyllis. Here's her 6 children. Here's her at her house. Here's her and her husband before their kids. This is her later with, like, grandkids and shit like that. I think maybe 15 to 20 hours a week is good. No, really. It really is. Phyllis did have a lot of people. Like, that 6 is aggressive. Like, I think having 4 kids would be really fun. But, like, 6, let's tone it down. 6 is crazy. Like, 6, that's really wild. Like, come on. 6? So, she gained national attention for the first time with her first book. It was called A Choice Not an Echo, which attacked the moderate East Coast leaders in the Republican Party and supported the campaign of conservative Arizona Senator Barry Goldwater when many party leaders did not. The slim volume was 120 pages and was distributed by her own publishing house and sold more than 3 million copies, catapulting Schlafly into fame with the emerging conservative movement, and she used the royalties from the book to fund all of her children's college educations. So again, a girl boss for evil. Like, I cannot be clearer enough. She is girl bossing for evil. That is her vibe, and that is her energy. So she now had a platform for her views, and she published a monthly 4-page pamphlet known as the Phyllis Schlafly Report and distributed it to thousands of subscribers, many of them women that she had cultivated in her role as a member of the National Federation of Republican Women. She was later the vice president of the National Federation of Republican Women. Her main interest as a writer and analyst, this to me is the most important part, because gender issues were not even on her list of shit she cared about at the beginning. Like, she kind of got pushed into it because she's a woman, which, like, It's terrifying, and I hate it here. So her main interests were defense policy and nuclear weapons. Keep in mind, the Cold War is popping the fuck off. Like, we are in the middle of the Cold War. People thought that they were going to die from nuclear war at any moment. Like, I know we think that now, but these people really thought at any moment. At any, like, they thought maybe in 10 minutes. I don't know. Very scary times. So she was concerned about that. She co-wrote several books about these with former Admiral Chester Ward. She was very critical of Richard Nixon's policy of détente, the lessening of tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union. She was also critical of Nixon opening relations with Mao Zedong's China in 1972. She thought communists could not be trusted and that they would not abide by agreements being reached on nuclear weapons and improved relations. So she basically was like, you're being dumb, they're tricking you, I'm right, you're wrong. And she was so worried about the country's 3-2 missile inferiority. So apparently other countries had more missiles than us. That's very not US government of us, but I guess that's why we're this way now, is because of people like Phyllis Schlafly. So she was worried about the missile ratios and inferiority. And she maintains a partial bomb shelter in her home, stocked with enough food for a month. She said, but you only need it for 2 weeks, the time it takes to get rid of the fallout. That's a lot. It's a lot. You have a bomb shelter for you and your 6 children. That's a lot. And again, that was not weird. Like, I think a lot of rich people had this during this time, but clearly she was very passionate about it. I tried really hard to find a picture of her bomb shelter, but I could not find one. I'm going to Google it so you can see. Not hers, but just so you can see what it looks like. That's what it would look like, probably. Something roughly like that. Here's a different one. This one's a square. But you see the vibes. So that's what she had in her basement, I guess. Or outside. I don't know where she had it. Why would you have 6 kids if there was a chance you'd have to fit them in a shelter? That seems unpractical. Wait, that's a really good fucking point. Bro, if I was a mom with 6 kids, I would be in that fucking bomb shelter with a vape pen watching YouTube on my phone. Like, leave me alone. Get away from me, I'm in the bomb shelter. Reminds me of the shelter in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I think that's what that was. Like, it was like an old one. Would you rather be stuck with Schlafly in the tube or a box? You can't say neither. I think I would rather be stuck in a box than the tube, because at least in the box I can sit in a corner, whereas the tube, there's like, it's kind of harder to get away from people, I feel like. In a box, you can literally just sit in the corner. Bomb shelter is the new shisha. Stop. Okay. So in 1952, like I said, Schlafly ran for Congress as a Republican in the majority Democratic district in Illinois. She lost. Here's her running for Congress. In 1970, she ran again unsuccessfully. And again, this was in Illinois, and lost to a Democratic incumbent. These were the only 2 times she ran for public office. Clearly, she wasn't very good at it, judging by the fact that, like, you literally ran as a Republican in a mostly Democratic area. Like, not to be, like, anti-challenge people, but, like, what do you think was gonna happen? I could have told you that. Okay, so when you run for Congress twice and fail, so you start saying your political career is a hobby and that you're actually a stay-at-home mom. That's, again, like, her whole shtick is, like, women should stay home with their children, when she had a career the whole fucking time. Like, we're not even to her stop ERA yet, and I have already told you about a very extensive political career. So, very interesting to me. So, one of the issues that did not interest Schlafly much at all was the feminist movement. Insert second congressional loss. However, Phyllis Schlafly entered the debate shortly after she lost for Congress the second time. She published What's Wrong with Equal Rights for Women in the February 1972 issue of the Phyllis Schlafly Report. So I personally think she did it for the likes, she did it for the fans, and she did it for the drama. She has the vibe of being like, yeah, everything's going according to plan, even when they're not. Which that's why, like, she really is a girl boss for evil, because that's very, very me. Miss America was so good at showing how hypocritical she was because she was away from home so often. Yes, I feel like she probably did like not know her children at all. Like she was probably very much a stranger to her own children. So here is the Phyllis Schlafly support. What's wrong with equal rights for women? We're not going to read the whole thing because it's long, but I did want to pull it up just so you could kind of see. So this speech began as an essay, but was adapted for speeches, and here it is like printed out from Iowa State. There she is. So she says the American woman is the most privileged. We have the most rights and rewards and the fewest duties. Great starting point. We have the immense good fortune to live in a civilization that respects the family as a basic unit of society. It's based on the fact of life. If you don't like the fundamental difference, you'll have to take your complaint up with God because he created us this way. The fact that women, not men, have babies is not the fault of selfish and domineering men or of the establishment or of any clique of conspirators who want to oppress women. It's simply the way God made us. So you can see the vibe. Like I said, it's long, so we're not going to read this whole thing, but what women's lib really mean? Means more job employment for women, blah, 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 and other desirable objectives which all women favor. We support these purposes, but this is only a sweet syrup which covers a deadly poison masquerading as women's lib. They are radicals waging a total assault on the family, on marriage, and our children. Don't take my word for it. Read their own literature and prove to yourself that what these characters are trying to do. Oh my god. You can see it's quite long. We could do this forever. Another women's lib magazine called Women tells the American woman that she is a prisoner in solitary confinement in the isolation of marriage. I would agree with that. The magazine promises that it will provide women with escape from isolation, release from boredom, that it will break the barriers that separate wife, mistress, secretary, heterosexual women, and homosexual women. These women's libbers do indeed intend to break the barriers of the 10 Commandments and the sanctity of the family. It hasn't occurred to them that a woman's best escape from isolation and boredom is not a magazine subscription to boost her stifled ego, but a husband and children who love her. But that's what they're saying. They're saying, I have a husband and kids and I'm bored. And Phyllis is like, have you tried having more kids? Because I have 6 and I'm not bored at all. So maybe you just haven't had enough. But like I said, we could read that all day, but we've already been here for 47 minutes. Schlafly picking up the ERA as her #1 cause when she realized men would never take her seriously on foreign affair issues that she actually cared about. Because she had like tried to have a career and men would just always ask her about women's rights shit. Like she would go on TV and go on the radio and try and talk about nuclear stuff, and they'd be like, so what do you think about women? And like, we forced her into this. When you do not let a girl boss, she will girl boss us to hell. We will pay for that. If you do not let a girl boss do her girl bossing, we all pay. We all pay. I'm hearing the adults in the Peanuts cartoons when I hear her words. Be like me and have more kids and your husband can pay someone else to raise them for you. She's like, I don't know why all these women were mad. Like, I have a bomb education, a full career, full-time help, and a rich husband. And I feel great. So I think everybody just needs to relax because if anything changes, I will lose my shit. Is really just her vibe. I think, anti-change. So what was her beef with the Equal Rights Amendment if she was a working woman? Her argument was that women's rights were already protected under the Constitution and that the ERA would undermine the family, the basic unit of society, which is ingrained in the laws and customs of our Judeo-Christian civilization. The modern American woman would lose the protection of father and husband and the Christian tradition of chivalry, which supported the family and shielded women in the case of divorce or separation. Schlafly's essay led directly to the formation of the movement of Christian evangelicals, Mormons, Catholics, and other traditional groups to fight against the ERA in an organization called Stop ERA, which was led by Schlafly. The ERA supporters ERA supporters, women that support the Equal Rights Amendment, were often white, middle-class, secular, and well-educated, and they tended to be single, or if married, they tended to be working. They were also divided amongst many feminist organizations such as NOW and others dedicated to securing the passage of the amendment. So like we said, ERA, they're all over the map. The feminist movement's all over the map. Stop ERA were married women with children, religious, middle class, older, and they saw links between attacks on religion in the courts and the feminist movement as threats to motherhood and the home. So, again, these women that are in Stop ERA, I think, have a lot more passion because they're a lot of times like married women with children that are very, very, very religious, and they're doing a lot of this through their churches. So like they're already in a group that has a lot of control over them and their life that's telling them to do this. Like they're going to do it and they're going to do what they say. So Democrats and Republicans, including President Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter, as well as celebrities and the media, supported the ERA, and making headway against it was an uphill climb. But Schlafly's organization and dedication to the cause prevailed. Schlafly linked the ERA to the fight to the fight against abortion and drew support from the religious rights and at a grassroots level. Where'd my other shoe go? Sorry, I just get too excited and I read too fast. So basically, Schlafly was like, the Equal Rights Amendment is basically abortion. And then all the religious people were like, we hate abortion. Let's all write letters. So that was her whole strategy right there, is like very, very grassroots. And we are going to talk about her political strategy because I will say, like I said in my TikTok, like we need to take some fucking notes because she was getting shit done. Even though it's girl bossing for evil, she had very effective political savvy of getting shit done. Phyllis Schlafly saying American women are the most fortunate class of people who ever walked the face of the earth while being rich and white, literally. So, her reasons to stop the ERA. Schlafly traveled across the U.S. in the 1970s calling for opposition to the ERA because she said it would lead to a reversal of gender roles, same-sex marriage, women in combat, and she said it would weaken military combat strength. So, keep in mind, right after World War II, not right after, but people have memory of World War II. People know people that have fought in World War II. And other wars have happened. Cold War, proxy war, very aggressive wartime. So Phyllis Schlafly is like, well, then women are going to have to join the military, and then we're going to have women fighting men, and the women are going to lose, and then we're going to fall as a country. And people were like, holy shit, that's terrifying. Especially if you're not educated. You don't know. You're going to believe her. She's educated. She's telling you. Opponents of the amendment also speculated that it would result in taxpayer-funded abortions, which, again, we all read the amendment. That is not in there. It is not in there. But people felt like it was going to result in taxpayer-funded abortions, unisex bathrooms, and remove laws that depend on gender to define a sex crime. So they were worried about laws against like sexual assault and things like that that use gendered language in the laws. Pretty much saying men will become vice versa. History repeats itself. Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. Exactly. Perhaps most of all, Schlafly feared that the ERA would hurt families and eliminate Social Security benefits for widows and homemakers. So even though she earned a salary, Schlafly did not believe women should be paid in the workforce, especially if they had young children. Even though she did. Even though she had a very intense political career amid the years of her having 6 children. Even though she did, she doesn't think that women should. If women were to stay home and raise families, earning no benefits on their own, Social Security was a necessity. So basically saying, if you're not paying into Social Security because you were raising children, you should still get Social Security benefits. And she was saying that, like, the law, it has gendered language and it should to keep that benefit. But I'm pretty sure, A, I don't even 100% understand how Social Security works. And B, you could still have that protection with non-gendered language. You would just have to say if someone was not engaged in employment because they were providing childcare for their children, like, you don't have to have gendered language to still accomplish that. Although she earned a salary, she did not believe women should be paid in the workforce. Like, that's just like, you literally, ugh, it makes me so mad. So I want to give some organizational details. When she created the, okay, sorry, I did not mean to put that part in there. So, women in 1960, what the fuck did I do here? Anyway, she had this thing, National Federation of Republican Women. And the same year that she established the Eagle Fund to financially support the publication of her conservative newsletter, the Schlafly Report, is, I don't know what I did with this paragraph. This is like not what it's supposed to be. Anyway, sorry, that is like, I really just confused the shit out of myself. Basically, what I wanted to talk about is that the Eagle Trust Fund created the Eagle Forum, which is a nonprofit, really, a 501c4, or not a nonprofit, but it can serve as a lobby and fund various political campaigns as well as serve as a conservative network. So she formed the Eagle Forum and the Eagle Trust Fund to fund said group. So what I'm trying to say here is that she's smart and she knows what the fuck she's doing because she has all of this set up exactly how she is supposed to be able to fundraise and like do it with her taxes right and like not fuck up on like a compliance level. Like she went to law school. She knows what the fuck is up is what I'm trying to say. So she had this group, she had it funded, all of that stuff. And again, she's rich and she has lots of rich friends and her and her husband have been prominent Republicans. So funding is not really going to be an issue here. So in the 1970s and early 80s, the national headquarters of Eagle Forum was based out of Schlafly's home in Alton, Illinois, but incorporated state and local chapters. Schlafly's eldest son provided legal work to incorporate the Eagle Forum chapters. In the case of Eagle Forum of California, John Schlafly made sure that the state-level organization could function as a corporation that can legally lobby but not endorse or oppose candidates. The state-level Eagle Forum chapter could then oversee the creation of local chapters within the state. Local chapter presidents were chosen by a state board in California and given manual outlining of organizational volunteer jobs that needed to be done and how to do them. So again, she is organized as fuck. She is very good at political organizing. Eagle Forum chapters across the country could be involved in a variety of activism, including educational outreach, legal defense, lobbying, and other forms of legislative and political activities having to do with campaigns. This structure allowed Eagle Forum to create political action committees, PACs, and funnel money into elections. So, she knows what's going on, she's very organized, and she has this structured very effectively to get stuff done. Another concern was that the ERA would abolish a husband's legal responsibility to support his wife and family, and it would alter child support and alimony laws to make them gender neutral. Overall, conservatives were worried that the amendment would undermine the authority of men over women, which they saw as a proper power relationship for well-functioning families. Many of these claims about the ERA have been disputed by legal scholars. Still, Stop ERA campaign continues to generate news whenever the ERA is reintroduced at a national or state legislative session. Phyllis Schlafly, when feminist leaders reached out to her to tell her that her claims were incorrect and none of that would happen. So again, I really want to reiterate that like Phyllis Schlafly is not stupid and she knew what she was saying was not true. She knew what she was saying was an exaggeration. She knew what she was saying was not an effect of this law. She knew what was going on. She was a very smart woman. She had a law degree. She's not a dumb lady. So Stop ERA's major supporters were already supporters of her group, Eagle Forum, and came from the right-wing Republican Party. Christian conservatives also organized for Stop ERA and used their churches to provide meeting space for events and network with legislators who were valuable to the strategic approach of the movement. Though Stop ERA included people from a variety of existing groups, Schlafly led the effort and she handpicked state directors to steer the campaign as well. The state organization raised funds and decided on a strategy for the initiative. So again, they have money, they have strategy, they have a plan, they have training. No fucking wonder they were successful. Why are the worst people so good at political organizing? No, literally. So the National Eagle Forum training was called Eagle Council, and they would gather eagles from across the country every year for one weekend where Schlafly and other leaders would impart their tactical expertise in political organizing. The use of the council as an official membership training gathering in dates to 1971, just before Eagle Forum officially formed in 1972. Schindler's characterizations of Schlafly then, it's important to understanding the Then, is important for understanding the ways that Schlafly could command an audience, inspire followers, and not only hold her own, but carve out a space for herself within the male world of politics, all while presenting herself as a traditional conservative housewife, both in dress and in ideology. So that's what's so interesting, is like, her whole shtick is like traditional, women in the home. But she is a fucking powerhouse politically. She's great at organizing. She's a very effective speaker. Like, she knows what the fuck is going on. She girl bossed inside of the sun, honestly. Schlafly prepared her followers to become leaders in their individual locales, ever ready to deploy weaponized housewifery, using her strategies for carefully crafting and meticulously training the eagle's appearance and demeanor for public consumption. By this I mean that the idea an image of the homemaker became a strategic political weapon that Schlafly deployed on behalf of conservative policy issues. But to make Eagle Forum a successful grassroots army required frequent and intensive education on the intimate knowledge of politicking by Schlafly herself. The goal of Eagle Council was to manicure this sort of militant housewifery as a means of ensuring successful lobbying, fundraising, and campaigning for the right to sway public perceptions towards the conservative movement and anti-feminism in the 70s and 80s. The militarized conservative housewife was, in a sense, a professional grassroots activist. She's not an amateur when it came to the nuts and bolts of passing policies, electing officials, and recruiting like-minded comrades. Poor use of the word comrades. Phyllis Schlafly would never let us use the word comrades. Phyllis Schlafly strategically spreading misinformation about the ERA and then training others to do the same. Like, she literally had a handbook and would like tell them everything to do, how to dress, everything. Oh, this is what I was saying. Schlafly trained volunteers on a lot. She brought hundreds of volunteers from various faiths, but all conservative, obviously. She taught them how to like conduct an argument, and she made them do rehearsals all day on Saturdays. You had to go up to her and give her your speech in 3 minutes, and she would critique you on your like elevator speech. She told them how to dress, including what earrings to wear, and they had to look super feminine and conservative and put together. She even coached them on how to hold their Bibles to make them not look crazy. So she'd be like, don't hold your Bible like this. Don't do it like you're crazy. Do it like all calm. I wish I had like a book. Do it all calm like. It's giving sorority. And she trained them to always keep a smile on their face. She told them they were expected to have their hair done. They were expected to be wearing makeup. They were expected to dress very, very conservatively. Very intense woman. Very intense things happening over here. Phyllis Schlafly in the church on Saturday training the volunteers on how to walk, talk, and dress. So again, her whole thing that she's preaching is that, oh, women should be home with their children, while she is quite literally touring the country telling women to change their earrings and to hold their Bibles differently. Perhaps the Schlafly strategy that is deployed the most by her opponents is her advocacy of femininity tactics, in which her supporters wear long dresses and hand out things such as homemade bread, pie, and jam to legislators. Ms. Schlafly said, "It's our best tactic. Women involved in this kind of lobbying carry signs to the bread winners from the bread makers. Preserve us from a congressional jam. Vote against the ERA sham." And she would send 30 to 50 people per day to legislators' office. And again, keep in mind, 22 states already passed it. So she is targeting all of her efforts to the specific states that she knows could vote against this and be the tipping point. So those are the people getting 50 visitors per day with pies and baked goods and all these things. These nice women in long dresses with these little punny signs bringing you baked goods every day. I hate how good that slogan is. I really do. Like, it's a great slogan. The way to the heart is through the stomach. Men, I think, are very, very easy to manipulate with food. It's honestly, I think, like, that is our greatest threat to democracy, is how easy it is to manipulate men with food and sense. Like, that, so much, we have so much on the line because of that. Men being convinced to hate the ERA just because some women brought pies. Like, you're joking. You're joking and I'm not laughing. She could win me over with some Chick-fil-A. I haven't had Chick-fil-A in a minute. Y'all, write that one down. The fastest way to male legislators' voting power is a pie. No, like, that's why I think, like, Phyllis Schlafly is, in a way, the most important historical figure because I have learned the most about political organization from her. Like, she had the recipe to get stuff done, and we need to be paying attention. Can't wait until you go on tour and teach us to psychoanalyze bad people and bother them. It's very on brand for men, exactly. SCOTUS was for sale, but at least it took more than a pie. 50 pies. So these are from an interview with her in 1975. So that's like right in the middle of all this. I just kind of wanted you to hear from the time. So this is from this interview. Ms. Schlafly is head of Stop ERA, a national movement of nationwide opposition to the Equal Rights Amendment, which she says runs out of the kitchen of her six lead room English Tudor home overlooking the Mississippi River in Alton, Illinois. In between her numerous speaking forays all over the country, she is a first-year law student at Washington University, where she says she ranks in the top fourth of her class. See? Law school. She said, I went to law school at the age of 50 because I thought it might give me some useful information. I've debated all the lawyers they've had on the other side, and I felt I got the better of all of them. As a matter of fact, that's what encouraged me to go to law school. Ms. Schlafly is an immaculately groomed woman with streaked blonde, upswept curls who stands 5 feet 7 inches and weighs 135 pounds. This quote pissed me off so bad. The same as I weighed before my 6 children were born. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Like, she is the pick-me of all pick-me's. And plus, back then, you guys could get diet pills that worked phenomenally. And you didn't even need a prescription. And you could just take that shit all day. You could be on speed all the time. Not sleeping, not eating, just going. Getting shit done in your career, cleaning your house, not eating, being skinny. So, shut the fuck up. Guess what? Nobody asked. This is ridiculous. Easy to lose weight when you're high on meth. Good thing to know I'm taller and heavier than her, so I could body her in a fight. I am shorter than her and heavier than her, but I pull earrings, so. Phyllis Schlafly, let's go. This is a joke. Please don't ban me. The absolutely most privileged white woman assuming their experience is universalist, really wild. They all took so many uppers and downers. So Schlafly took the lead in challenging feminists in debates and making appearances in the national media, while grassroots supporters lobbied at the state level, often bringing cookies to appeal to men who dominated state legislators. 5 states proved to be crucial battlegrounds: Florida, Missouri, Illinois, Oklahoma, and North Carolina. So this is where they had all the Stop ERA people, and that's where their forces prevailed. I get a video in here. Where's the video? Oh, it's soon. Okay. So this is from a very, very good piece that I found, so I wanted to give them credit. The General and Her Soldiers, How Phyllis Schlafly and Eagle Forum Mobilized the Conservative Movement. This is by Allison Perlman. Through archival and ethnographic research, I demonstrate that, this is very academia, so bear with me. I demonstrate that Schlafly created a distinct model of conservative women's activism I called weaponized housewifery. The style of activism is based on radicalized logics of white womanhood and allowed Eagle Forum to function as a professionally trained political activist. Schlafly and her Eagles utilized the image of a housewife as a uniform and as a tactical weapon to deploy against the media, the state legislators, and Congress. Weaponized housewifery combines surveillance, coercion, and gendered performity to shape politics in interpersonal, national, and international scales. Schlafly and her Eagles applied this activism style broadly with their conservative movement before, during, and after their anti-feminist bid to block the ERA. Schlafly occupied a liminal space within the movement. She was neither a member of the grassroots or the movement of the belief. She inhabited both spaces simultaneously. So that's why she was so effective. It's because she could play with the elite, she knew the policy, she could go on the debate stages, she could talk to the lawyers, and she was also in the church being like, fix your goddamn fucking earrings and this is how you hold your Bible. So she was really able to kind of play all sides of this issue. So her strategy to defeat the ERA was to convince women that equality between men and women was undesirable. She consistently painted worst-case scenarios juxtaposed with the lives of average white women at a time that led many of them to believe that inequality wasn't so bad after all. She was a biological determinist who thought the physiological differences between men and women should be the primary determiner of their roles. She advocated for what she thought of as a privileged position for women in society. One example is that Schlafly offered is that women did not have to register for the draft, a fact that Schlafly argued was a female privilege. Schlafly also applauded the fact that most social welfare programs, women were assumed to be dependents of their husbands, and that entitled them to some government services and benefits. She feared that greater sex equality would lead to a moral decline in society by changing the roles that women had traditionally held. Phyllis Schlafly fighting for women to stay home while having a wildly successful political career. Always come out on top if you're playing both sides. So I wanted to give you a chance to hear her talk about this, and I do want to warn you, she is a good fucking speaker. I was watching this and I was like, damn, I see your point. I almost fell victim to the Schlafly. So here, the first minute is just giving context that we already know, so let me skip.
Speaking against the ERA is Phyllis Schlafly, National Chairman of Stop ERA and National President of the Eagle Forum. Speaking for the amendment is Peg Anderson, State Chairperson of the Iowa ERA Coalition and a member of the Iowa Commission on the Status of Women. Here is moderator Diane McCumber.
The next question is, what would be the effect of the Equal Rights Amendment on employment and on equal pay for equal work? Mr. Schlafly?
The biggest myth connected with the Equal Rights Amendment is that it has something to do with equal pay for equal work. It doesn't. Go back and read the language of it. It does not prohibit discrimination by private industry. It doesn't say anything about jobs. What it does is to prohibit discrimination by the United States or by any state. And so the only thing that ERA would do in the employment field is to make sure that the laws are sex equal. Now, the employment laws are already sex equal. We have the Equal Pay Act. We have the Equal Employment Opportunity Act of 1972, which prohibits discrimination in the job market on account of sex. And this applies to hiring, to pay, and to promotions. There's a whole federal bureau enforcing this. It's called the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
She's kind of eating this
and
argument.
They're enforcing it so aggressively that they're even requiring businesses to give women the benefit of affirmative action. And there are many cases on record where they have required businesses to give the job to the less well-qualified woman in preference to the more qualified man in order to achieve their affirmative action quota. They have gotten enormous multi-million-dollar settlements against the biggest companies in our land. $38 million against AT&T, $30 million against the steel companies. At the present time, only about 61% of the jobs in this country.
So one, I just want to say that Phyllis Schlafly fucking ate that argument. She had her stats. She used them to her advantage, even though those lawsuits were from very real and very aggressive gender discrimination that they had to make payouts for. She used them in her argument when they had nothing to do with her argument. And I just want to say that this other lady, Peg, I can't remember who she is, she should not have been picked for this debate. I'm sure she is lovely and has done great work, but she does not hold her own in this debate at all. And I really don't want to roast her, so I just wanted to say that so that you all would know.
Country are covered by the Equal
Let me go back
Act.
so you can see her from the beginning.
At the present time, only about 61% of the jobs in this country are covered by the Equal Pay Act. There are many government jobs that are not covered. The Equal Rights Amendment will affect those government jobs that are not now covered by the Equal Pay Act. Also, the Equal Rights Amendment, in regard to all of the laws, has a sense of reinforcing the principle that is behind those laws. It gives recognition to the fact that this society does mean, in fact, that we shall not differentiate and distinguish and discriminate on the basis of sex in the areas of jobs and employment and opportunity. It does not cause those
set feminism back 50 years.
It does not interfere in the private sector. That is correct. But it gives a psychological and philosophical basis for the other laws that are involved with the private sector. The equal pay and the other laws dealing in this area that are in the area of government would be reinforced by the Equal Rights Amendment. I think
One of the things that we
You
have
don't
to
have to
recognize
say I
in
think.
Iowa
You're talking. We
is that
know it's what you
do
think.
have many very fine laws in Iowa. We have had a progressive legislature in the last 4 to 8 years that have done a great deal about removing discrimination from our laws. But the Equal Rights Amendment will give a permanence to that. It will guarantee for the future the principles that have been passed in
I'd be
those
nervous
laws
to
now.
follow this up too.
Without an Equal Rights Amendment, there is no guarantee for our sons and daughters of the equality of rights that we want for them now.
It's a no. Like, you see what I mean? You see why Phyllis Schlafly was so fucking successful. You saw her just body that fucking debate. She bodied it. Absolutely bodied it. So Critchlow, author of In Defense of Populism, which is to be released in the fall of 2020, but that seems terrible, says Schlafly built up her following through her work of the National Federation of Republican Women, which became her basis of Stop ERA. She was articulate, quite intelligent, and extremely well organized, and she was deadly on the debate stage. Schlafly's strategy was to organize grassroots women in multiple states to put pressure on state legislators to stop or rescind ERA passage. I'm absolutely convinced that it would have passed without her involvement. She was able to single-handedly organize the Stop ERA movement. Sorry to the other woman. That was a tough act to follow. Yeah, it really was. So, here are some picks, some stuff. So it says, you can't fool Mother Nature. Stop ERA. The ERA will hurt the family. It will invalidate all state laws which require a husband to support its wife. It will impose on the mother's equal financial obligation for the financial support of their infant and minor children. Will deprive senior women who have spent many years in the home as a wife and mother, supported by their husbands and provided with a home. So she just put a bunch of stuff that's not true on a pamphlet, is really what this is. So we're not going to read the entire thing. But here is some other pics of her. You can see, there she is, the button, Stop ERA. Here's her with a baby. This is another thing that the left and progressivism is like fucking up on, is like, she was partially so successful in organizing women because she encouraged women to bring their infants and children with them, and like that was a part of it. Like, she made sure everyone's kids were taken care of and that people could focus on what they wanted to do and that they didn't have to organize childcare. And I just don't see the left doing that. I really just don't. And it doesn't mean like, oh, you have to pay for childcare, but like, encouraging and allowing people to involve their children makes a movement much more accessible, and I just don't really see that from a lot of groups. Here's some pics of her again. Danger ERA, Stop ERA. Here's her in front of the White House. You can see she's always dressed very, very, very femininely, like Michelle Duggar vibes. Working women don't need ERA. Vote no. This guy kind of looks like Greg from Succession, if you know, the guy in the suit, kind of to the right of the sign. ERA is not the way. Vote yes on number 6. I guess that was like the proposition or something. Here's her with a megaphone. Here's her, hella people around her getting lots of attention. And then here's her again, lots of people around her getting lots of attention. So that's your girl, Phyllis Schlafly. I also kind of wanted to show you a timeline of all of this so you kind of understand it. So 1923, that's when we said the first version was filed. And then 1971 to 2, that is when the House and then Senate passed the ERA, giving 7 years to ratify. And then in 1979, due to the work of Phyllis Schlafly, the deadline passed and they were 3 states short. Then in 1982, they extended the deadline, but no new states ratified. And then later they said, hey, you cannot extend the deadline. Like, you literally cannot do that. That's not a thing. So they were like, we're going to extend it. We still didn't do it. And we weren't allowed to extend it. So like, massive, massive L. And then in 2017, just to kind of see where we are now, Nevada and Illinois approved the ERA, that means they were the 36th and 37th state. And then January 2020, Virginia became the 38th to approve the ERA. So they got their 38 states. It just took a really long fucking time. But then the Justice Department says that the 1979 deadline prevents ratification. Then in February 2023, a DC federal court appeal rejects the request to order the ERA published to the Constitution. So they really tried again, and it's still, the law was like, no, sorry. So gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. Here's the woman of the hour. Might fuck around and spread inaccurate information about the ERA, even though I have a literal law degree, so I know that I'm wrong. Do y'all think her motivation was, since she knew she was lying and doing the opposite of what she advocated, just for personal power? I think it was just her ideology. Like, I think she knew she was a woman of privilege in some ways. Like, she knew that she went to law school and all that stuff and had a career, but she just, I don't know. I think what it was is she wanted a successful political career and she wanted to make a difference in the world, and she saw that this was a cause that people listened to her on. I think that she wanted to work in more like military policy and nuclear policy, but no one really took her seriously, and I think she wanted to be successful. And here we are now. I have no idea if this has to do with the beer company. Could not tell you. Sorry about that. And then I called my mom, and apparently she interviewed Phyllis Schlafly like a very long time ago. My mom used to write for a women's magazine in the early 2000s, so she got to interview Phyllis Schlafly in the early 2000s. And apparently my mom started the interview and was like, "Hi, Phyllis," and she goes, "It's Mrs. Schlafly," and my mom was like, "Fucking okay, bitch, goddamn." So Mama Redacted asked, apparently my mother asked Phyllis if she saw a disconnect between her high profile career and her message that women should stay in the home. And she said, "I don't know what you're talking about." So I guess you can just say, "I don't know what you're talking about," anytime someone tries to hold you accountable. And apparently my mom pushed it and said, like, no, like made her answer. And she said, "There's no disconnect there. I'm just speaking my mind." And then my mom, to me, she said, "I just about fucking lost it and wanted to say, 'God damn it, Phyllis, if you had your way, you wouldn't be allowed to speak on TV.'" And according to my mother, she has so much cognitive dissonance, it was so obvious she was completely blind to her own privilege. And this is the slide I wrote when I originally did this, like over a year ago, but I told her that we were going to be talking about this again, and she asked me to add that she said, "She's like Serena, who started Gilead, only she didn't live long enough to have her finger cut off." So if you watch The Handmaid's Tale, spoiler alert, Handmaid's spoiler alert, I guess I should have done that earlier. One of the women who like ends up getting treated really shitty, they do like a flashback, and she was like a super conservative on stage talking about how women needed to be in the home. And then later they were like, "Bitch, you're not allowed to read." And she was like, "I'm literally a published author." And they were like, "You can't fucking read anymore." But it was like her whole shtick was about the whole women in the home thing. So that's what the reference is to. Me to myself when I realized Phyllis Schlafly is one of the most successful female organizers I've ever come across. Yay. Love this blueprint for us. Schlafly died of cancer September 5th, 2016 in her home in Missouri. She was 92. This is her a few months prior. She died doing what she loved, fucking over women everywhere by campaigning for Donald Trump. So there she is. Miss Schlafly. And even though she is dead, these women are still working against us. So it's important to be able to recognize this work and break down the stereotypes that they create, because a lot of what they talk about is false. So let's look at their website and see what kind of false stuff they're saying. We're not going to look a ton, just because if y'all want to look at it, you can. I don't really want to platform her. But it's a very like anti-gay, anti-trans, like a lot of the issues that we're kind of dealing with today that people are spreading misinformation about. There's a pic of her. Our founder was Phyllis Schlafly. Main menu. It looks shitty because I have my screen like super tiny. The Phyllis Schlafly Report, weekly column, radio broadcast, books, events. This looks terrifying. I'm horrified. Topics. Let's do gambling. They're anti-gambling. Why did I click on gambling and it says 21 states stand against transgender militants? Y'all saw me click gambling, no? Like, I literally tried to pick something that was gonna be not triggering to people. I don't want to subscribe to your email. Leave me alone. Let's try a different one. Race relations. I don't even think I want to click on that. Sanctuary cities. Let's try sanctuary cities. This is about the southern border. You can see, very, very right wing. No sanctuary for California. That's from 2019. Let's get it updated. I kind of want to see what they say about race relations now. I'm kind of curious. Everywhere you go, someone can watch you. Give peace a chance. Ron Paul's wife is right on political violence. This seems like just mostly opinion pieces, but that's what they're up to now. Pretty horrifying. They're still anti-equal rights amendment. And before we do our trivia game, this was a shorter stream tonight. This was quicker. I wanted to tell you what we are doing next week. Next week we are doing, I meant to change this. I meant to change it from the rise and fall to the journey of, because I feel like it's not really a rise and fall. It's more of just a journey. So we're going to be talking about Ellen, and we are going to be talking about how she did a lot when it comes to like normalizing seeing gay people on television and creating space for queer people to express themselves and come out in the mainstream media. She really like did a lot of stride towards that. So we are going to talk about that, but obviously we are going to talk about the terrible things that happened on her set and how she got canceled because she was treating her employees fucking awfully and had a really, really toxic, terrible work environment and a lot of things. So, and then the iconic, that's not true, Ellen. You were invited. That, like, so we're going to be talking about Ellen. I'm already done with a lot of these slides. Not a lot, but like I've made like 20 some of the slides. So it'll be a good one. I'm very excited about Ellen. But let's go ahead and play a game about Phyllis Schlafly. So I wish we had the Valentine's Day one because it's pink. What game do I want to do? Underwater, space, sports, jungle, carnival, beach, Himalaya. I literally told a friend I haven't seen in months that I'm busy next Wednesday. I'm so like, I need to use my air purifier more. I'm having a lot of sinus issues recently. Like, so much pressure. Beach. All right. Oh no, first one was Himalaya. A therapy parking lot. You win. Himalaya. Okay. So, if you would like to play the game, you can go to join.nearpod.com. And you don't have to make an account. I'm not trying to get your email address. I'm not trying to get your information, but go to join.nearpod.com and enter the code 7YRCK. 7YRCK. It's going to ask you to enter your name. Your name will come up on the screen. You can pick something funny. Don't pick anything offensive because that's annoying. And then it will ask you to pick a character. I think you can scroll multiple pages and there's lots of characters to choose from. I like how we say it's a short baby stream when we were here for an hour and 25 minutes so far. It's because I didn't have as many videos in this one. That's what always makes it long, is like having multiple 3-4 minute videos. Like that's in 30 minutes, super quick. So I'll give you a couple minutes to pick your characters, pick your people. It is a 10-question trivia game. Do you have the article where your mom interviewed Schlafly? I do not. That would be cool though. We talked about Phyllis Schlafly and the Stop ERA movement. Oh, I'm so stuffy. I'm excited for next week for Ellen though. And I appreciate you all's flexibility with me doing these little remix streams. Work has been a little cuckoo crazy pants right now. So I've been a little busy, but war is almost over. Sorry, I got distracted. We need a Nancy Reagan because that woman's past is crazy. Oh, good idea. Can you do more iconic but evil and horrendous women? Oh, okay. So to answer your question, yes, I can and yes, I will. And part 2, I created a Girl Bossing for Evil playlist on YouTube. So I like any past streams that I felt like fit in the category, I added to it. But I'm really liking this Girl Bossing for Evil trend. I don't think I'm going to put Ellen in Girl Bossing for Evil because I don't know, it just doesn't fit. Even though she's done a lot of things that were not cool, it doesn't fit to me. I don't know. I'll give you a couple more seconds or a couple more minutes to join. And again, huge thank you to everyone that donated. We started tonight at 500 and Ooh, Baja Blast. We started tonight at $590, and now we are at $832. So thank you very, very, very much. And again, there's 245 people on here right now. So if every person donated $1, you know, we'd be a lot further in our life, and I appreciate that from you. So thank you to everyone who has donated. I'm very excited to upgrade my equipment soon and be able to give you all more high quality streams. I'm going to give you a couple more seconds to join the game. I'm going to give you 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'm starting. Can't wait to watch Amy Coney Barrett in 20 years from you. Stop. That thought is horrifying. You convinced me to get a Blackstone. It got delivered today. I'm really having a fun time with it. Is there another way to donate not through Venmo? Unfortunately, not, because technology hates me, but you being here is enough, and I appreciate you wanting to donate. Phyllis Schlafly was a stay-at-home mother. True or false? The Equal Rights Amendment was first drafted in what year? I told you twice. The year ones are hard. Did you ever teach APUSH? No, but I would love to one day. I was a part of the first class with the new APUSH curriculum, which I think is pretty cool. Have you done a stream about labor movements or union organizing? Yes, I have. So I did one, and I've had a lot of people in my comment section asking me that recently, and there's a couple. One of my first streams was about the Atlanta washerwoman strike, and then I also did just like a general labor union stream, and I feel like there was another one, but I can't remember. I'm scrolling through them now. That's the labor union one. Okay, so the labor union one is from 2 months ago, and the title is America's Labor Movement. Come learn about the men and women who fought and died for our rights, I think. And then there's the old one about the Atlanta washerwomen strike. And I'm looking through, I think those are the only two that are like very union focused. I'm sure it comes up in other ones. Yeah, I think that's it. Well, I have one about industrialization that I bet I talked about unions in. Of course, a Quick Trip parking lot. Man, we're already on question 6. Time flies when you're having fun. Schlafly ran for Congress twice, once successfully, and that is false. She lost both times. It's okay. If you forgot to put gift when you donated, it's literally no big deal at all. The only reason I ask is because if no one put gift, I would have to like report all of it as income. But if it's just one person, it doesn't really like make enough of a difference for me to have to report it and like for it to cause a problem. It would be in the report, but it would be like nothing, you know? Misredacted interviewed Phyllis Schlafly. That's false. It was my mother. Phyllis Schlafly was not aware that the claims she was making were incorrect. Lots of 2 answer choice ones on this game tonight. Are you getting one of the cute colored IMAX? Yes, I am gonna get the purple one. I thought about the pink, but it's too much of an orangey pink and not like a hot pink, so I'm gonna get the purple. Thank you for asking. Who was the last person Phyllis Schlafly campaigned for? Bonus question, what is suffrage? I wish that question was in here. I feel like I have something to do after work tomorrow, but I don't know what it is. I don't think I have anything. Good for me. Who/what are we learning about next week? Also, optional, let me see how everyone feels. So, next week, yes, we're talking about Ellen next week, and next week's stream. Actually, let's just do this and then I'll talk to you about this. Number 1, we have D and then Katie and then Baja Blasted, Breadwinner and Maker, a feminine mystique parking, an IKEA cafeteria, why would a man be there, Zaxby's parking lot, Wary teacher, Poopy Duper, Liz, Lizard Beth, Tori, Whitney, Jesse, Polly, Mad, Stop ERA, Toto, and Haley. I will scroll through the rest. No, Ellen, you were invited. Richard Nixon is here. A therapy parking lot, 6 bunker children. Foolish Swifty. Nice job, nice job, nice job. All right, so what I was going to tell you, next week we will be talking about Ellen, and obviously we stream 7 p.m. Eastern every single Wednesday, but Wednesday midday, I am going to see the Barbie movie. So if you want me to, I'll talk about it, but if you don't want me to, I guess I should ask people that day, but if you want me to talk about it, I'm happy to talk about it, but if you are like, no, I haven't seen it, I don't want spoilers, I'll shut my mouth. Memes. Me and my sister are going to see it. I'm very excited. Me if I was a politician and Phyllis, a henchwoman, came to my office with a sweet potato pie. Phyllis feeling good before an interview, Mama redacted. I do not think that my mother had an impact on Phyllis like that. I think Phyllis didn't give a fuck about my mom. Great stream, thank you. I felt like even though this is not a very top performing stream in terms of numbers, the way like Sister Wives and John and Kate plus 8 are, the vibes were impeccable tonight. I watched your Barbie episode last week and really enjoyed it and learned a lot. That was one of my favorite streams I've ever done. I loved Barbie's stream. When Phyllis Schlafly reads the ERA and extrapolates shit like this means all women will be forced to eat sand. 11, highest I've ever gotten, we love. Phyllis to the rest of us, now come back to the kitchen. This stream was so fun, even as a previous topic. I'm glad you guys are putting up with the previous topics. Did you guys see that there's like a Vice special about the Gosselin family? I need to watch that. No, I'm not. They provide for us and we must obey them because they're our masters. I'm going to say that to my boyfriend right after I end this and see how he responds to that. The Duggar stream is what brought me to Twitch. I have loved those streams and I need more ideas like that. So because we had a shorter stream, let's brainstorm for a second. Even though I really need to go put chapstick on, let's brainstorm. Like my favorite streams have been Barbie, Duggar, Sister Wives, I would say. Woodstock was a good one. I Venmo'd you my class tuition, thank you. Nexium Cult, that's like a little too heavy for me, but I appreciate it. Also, I know some people personally, so like I I was in a women's group that was not a cult, but was cult adjacent to 2 different cults, that like a lot of the women in my group were a part of 2 other cults. So just because I know some people that have been in it, I just like don't want to talk about it because I know it's like very complicated and all of that. Scientology would be a good one. American Girl Dolls, also a good one. Yellow Deli Cult. Oh my god, that one's super heavy too, and that one's crazy. I probably should do that. Makeup YouTubers from the 2010s. My god. Cruises was a good one. The Villages, that was a great one. Wendy Williams. I'll think about it. I cannot say yes or no because I don't know what's going on with her, and I know it's like some intense stuff. Dan Schneider and his Nickelodeon shows. Cruises was so good. Family Vloggers. Please do American Girl Dolls. American Girl Dolls is on my list. The Amish. Oh, the Amish is a good one. Oh, I should do the Amish. We did fraternities and sororities already. Let me pull up my stream idea list. Amish. I still want to do Martha Stewart too. Family Vloggers. Family Vloggers is hard because I got to figure out who I want to talk about. We kind of did history of mental asylums. We did Nellie Bly. I saw something on TikTok about a village in Florida that's a retirement village for released sex offenders. Oh my god. Martha Stewart is going to be a fun one. So, we have some good ideas. As always, thank you so much for being here. This is the highlight of my week every single week. It's an honor that people want to come and listen to me, and it's an even bigger honor that people want to give me money so that I can buy better equipment. So thank you to everyone who has donated, and thank you to anyone who wants to donate in the future. Thank you to everyone that has subscribed. Thank you for supporting me and supporting this work. You might have noticed I've been making a lot more content recently. I've been working a lot less, and the reason I've been able to do that is because of the financial support that I get from you all for this content, and I greatly appreciate that because I know that you guys are hardworking people that go to work every day to provide for your family. So the fact that you want to throw some money to me for entertaining you is just a massive honor. So thank you so much. Have a great night, everybody. I will see you here 7 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday, July 26th, and we will be talking about Ellen DeGeneres because she was invited.